Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT News and a major update on the Sentinels front ahead of these last couple of weeks of matches here in the North American main event. Sentinels of course had SicK and TenZ step out for various reasons last week. TenZ might be able to return to the starting team, by no means guaranteed, but SicK certainly will not be for the remainder of their matches. Raucus will come in instead, but Zombs was actually asking the team if they wanted him to play. They declined this opportunity. And what about the whole Sinatraa situation as well? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. There's been so much going on with the Sentinels front, it must be said, these last few days. And well, of course, he's been doing his best here. They took down Sentinels, of course, last week when OpTic versus Sentinels, the series where TenZ and SicK both weren't in the team. They had Danny in instead. They had Raucus in instead. But it might be a very similar story for their upcoming matches, which of course are crucial if they want any chance to qualify for the playoffs. And even if they can, more than likely they'll be 4th seed in the playoffs. That means they'll be starting from losers. So it's really not a good situation for Sentinels right now. And I'm sure if they lose this upcoming week's match, there will be questions already about what they do for last chance qualify going into champions, this type of stuff. Just did want to mention this as well, because I like to talk about agents often towards the start of the video. And I saw something like this similar happen. I think you guys might remember it if you guys have been watching for a while. Some of the, I mentioned a clip like this on, I think it was Split. And apparently this can also happen here on Bind, of course, where this guy just gets, the poor Chamber lad, just, you don't really feel sorry for Chamber because the agent's way too strong at the moment. A lot of people would argue. But look at him go. He just gets flung up in the air by FaZe right here. By this kind of ball thing that keeps you in that circle. So I do wonder about this, right? Because this, of course, was happening rather accidentally. But if this is actually possible and there are lineups for this, then it actually makes this a potentially viable strategy in professional play, right? If you can line up a shot like this to drag this guy into the sky, then it actually might be a plausible thing that some pros might consider. So I wonder if they're going to do anything about this, because it does seem kind of goofy, but maybe it was an intended kind of gameplay consequence. And I wanted to discuss LG as well, because they're in a, Sentinels group right now. They're looking rather good. They're 2-1. They're poised to maybe go even deeper, right? Because last time around, they looked rather good, but they didn't really translate any of that into actually, qualifying for the playoffs and getting through, of course, further than that. But so far, they've been looking rather good. B-Dog, I think, especially, has been a really phenomenal talent for them, and really the entire team is kind of firing on all cylinders. They have a few words as to exactly what's made this possible. I'll leave this link down below if you guys would like to. But of course, the new look roster, Marder and B-Dog announced in January. Challenges began in February, and these were kind of their thoughts on stage 1, right? That they didn't really do quite what they wanted to do, except the guards, Cloud9 and OpTic. They're truly a tier above. I think they are the pinnacle of North America, at least they were in the first stage. So to come close to them and be the best of the rest, I guess you could say, definitely exceeded our expectations, right? So LG did pretty well stage 1. They made a good run in that losers bracket. I think they took down version 1, if I'm not mistaken, as part of what was a pretty respectable run. Of these, of course, were the top 4 last time around. Nowadays, it's a rather different story there. You've got the likes of 100 Thieves on a bit of a resurgence. Cloud9, of course, have made a roster change. You've got the guard now, who haven't quite looked what they are. It's only OpTic out of these 4 that still seem like pretty much at the peak of their powers. There's other teams in that ballpark conversation now as well, and given the kind of fall off that some of these teams have had, it would have been a decent opportunity, I suppose, for a team like Sentinels to come through and get somewhat closer to the level that they've been in the past, but not been the case for them, of course, so far. Maybe LG, though, can be the team to step into that mantle, and Evil Geniuses as well in their group. Mother, I thought was some interesting words here, actually. We've always been in the deep ends, we're used to playing from behind, playing in high-pressure situations. The vibes are really good on this team in matches. No one is ever out of the game. No one's selfish enough to care about their own scoreline and be upset about their scoreline or a match scoreline or whatever. We're always bouncing back. So I thought it was a really good kind of word to say that Marder on his own team, right? That everyone's always super dialed in and focused at all times. Certainly a good dynamic to have as a team. And as B-Dog says as well, we're not worried too much about these close games. We know that we're getting the job done. So we'll of course see the situation in the groups here in a few minutes time that LG have going into these final couple of weeks. But of course, we're going to discuss the Sentinels situation. Back on the 22nd of May, SicK says this. I'll be honest, I've been really going through it recently. Sorry to all the fans. And I did wonder what exactly he meant by this, right? Because when a player says this, it's often a little bit more than just, he's playing kind of poorly below the level that he thinks he should be playing at. It might well be something outside of the game that he's kind of struggling with. That certainly seems to be the case here, right? Because we saw just a few days later, the TenZ was unwell. Of course, he tested positive, and then SicK had a family emergency that he had to step away for. So really tough scenes. Of course, they played OpTic. They might not have beaten them. Unlikely they'd have beaten them anyway, all things considered. And Raucus and Danny did a pretty respectable job, but still they got 2-0s, and I'm losing both maps there is pretty tough because it means that their map win-loss is not looking particularly good for Sentinels right now. And of course, it means it's going to make the uphill road ever harder for the remaining few matches that they're going to have. But confirmation yesterday from Sentinels that SicK will be taking an extended leave of absence from the team to attend an ongoing family matter. SicK has our full support during this difficult time, and coach Raucus will fill in for the remainder of challenges. That's the thing, Raucus, when he initially stepped away from Sentinels, or he was on FaZe, of course, last year, he then joins after FaZe failed to make it to Champions, he joined Sentinels as their kind of coach for the team. And people were wondering, okay, after the kind of Champions is over, is Rawkus going to leave? Is he going to kind of stay on the team? And our understanding is that because he was still kind of a part of FaZe, or he was on loan or something, the arrangement there didn't really work out. They probably wanted a significant buyout, and he effectively went back to FaZe, tried to find an actual roster to compete on, and or like a coaching opportunity. And now he's found that again on Sentinels. Of course, they've come to an arrangement with FaZe, but yeah, still a respectable player. Did a pretty good job, all things considered, up against OpTic. So they are going to bring him into the team in place of SicK. But the difficult thing is that SicK is such a difficult player to replace. Let's say, like, is it going to be a big hole left on the team with SicK not in the roster anymore? Of course, yeah, TenZ generally is their kind of win condition, as I've said the last few days, and there's no guarantees that he's going to be back. But no, SicK really does put them in a difficult spot, especially with Rawkus, who really hasn't played competitive in quite some time. Some initial reaction here from the rest of the team. dapr says, "Wish Hunter all the best, send all the love. Thank you, Big Daddy Rawkus. What would we do without the gigantic brain?" He says, and as ShahZaM goes as well, wishing all the best for Hunter. Also appreciate Rawkus stepping up for us. We'll be giving it our best. So they definitely have an uphill road ahead of them. But the big question was, why did someone else not step in place of Rawkus? Zombs is there on the not on the starting team, but he's on the bench. If they wanted him to step in, they could have done. They asked him a few days ago to compete when they were playing OpTic in place of Danny, I guess, but he said no, he didn't want to do it because he hadn't really played in scrims for a few months. He'd just get destroyed in the scrims. But he did say actually in a clip that came out during the game that if they asked him to compete next week or whatever, or for future matches if they need it, then he would be down to do that. I'll share the clip for you guys here in a second. But this time around, it seems that even though he was kind of saying, yeah, okay, I'll play, guys, I'm ready to go now. If you do really need me, I will step into the team. He actually reckons right here he offered to play, but they actually, turned down this opportunity, it seems, and went for Rawkus instead.
I'm down to play the next match if they put J in too.
Swap 2 players. Oh.
No, that's a
good
good map.
Match or map, yeah, I'm down.
I'm down, just let him know.
Okay. He'll bait and switch. Oh no, Danny gets res.
Wow, this is winnable. A big round. Rockets on the A-bomb side, he's about to 3k.
I'll message Rawkus right now. Me
He's about
and
to go
Jay are
crazy.
down to play next map.
Is it even possible for Sentinels to play us anymore? We need some very specific things to happen. Like we need to beat both C9 and FaZe, and we need C9 and FaZe to lose one more game that isn't us, and then I think there's a way.
Now, the other clip I showed there actually is kind of what TenZ had to say on what they're going to, have to do to qualify, but I'm pretty sure it's not quite as difficult as he's pointing it out to be. But, I mean, the way he pointed out to be definitely would make them qualify, but there is other ways that it can happen, I believe. Now, the Sinatraa says actually they want to keep it fair, because that was the other question there, is that if Zombs isn't going to be allowed, why can't Sinatraa play? Because we saw a few days ago that his kind of like training is now complete with Riot, so he should be able to compete. But the issue is, I think, is that because he's not part of the roster, like there's some sort of roster lock shenanigans that goes on here, and because he's a content creator, he's not part of the team. I don't know how easy it is from the Riot side and from Sentinel side to effectively give him the contract or make the contract written in the way that it needs to be so that he actually can step in for the team. But then again, Danny wasn't necessarily a substitute for the roster, so not sure why that should be the case either. I'm pretty sure if they wanted Sinatraa to play and that they probably thought this might have been coming, they could maybe have made it happen, but maybe didn't want to for whatever reason, right? But Zombs said he wanted to play, he gave it a go, and the team has actually declined it, right? Maybe they just think Rawkus kind of fits the role they're looking to replace SicK with a little bit better than Zombs could possibly do, or to a certain degree they're frustrated with the fact that Zombs turned them down the opportunity last week to play against OpTic, and they're like, hey, no, screw you, Zombs, you're not really here for, you're not really here to actually help us win anyway. We'll just go with Rawkus instead, who's actually part of the team now. So interesting dynamic, right? And that's the thing, I'm pretty sure they did change Zombs' contract to become a content creator contract, which I believe is what he said last week, that would make it difficult for him to play. But at the same time, if they wanted to, I'm sure they could make it happen, because he said, look, we'll play. So a bit of miscommunication maybe, or a bit of confusion really on all fronts at this point. But regardless of the SicK and kind of Rawkus Zombs situation, of course, TenZ is kind of the big player they're missing right now. We did look at a clip yesterday where he said he's feeling better, he's moving in the right direction, but far from guaranteed that he's going to be back to normal in time or going to be able to play at this kind of peak level when it comes to the matches just coming up this weekend. So I'm pretty sure their match isn't on the Friday, but it is on the Saturday, so he does need to get better quickly if this team wants a chance to make it. They can make it, of course, as we looked at a couple of days ago. ago, the way TenZ described it was that they need to win both their games, and both FaZe and Cloud9 need to lose another game. Now, that's not absolutely true. That would work for Sentinels, because that would put Sentinels at 2-3 and put those other teams FaZe and Cloud9 at 1-4, which would mean that Sentinels were at least 4th, which does qualify them. But all they really need to do is win both those final games, which is going to, of course, much easier said than done. And then if they have a tiebreaker at 2-3 with one of those other teams, then they will win the tiebreaker due to their head-to-head. So they don't need both FaZe and Cloud9 to lose both of their series. They can actually do without that. As long as LG and EG both win one of their games, then we get a 2-3 tiebreaker with either Cloud9 or FaZe, in which case Sentinels can still win if that was the possibility. Of course, the group perspective looks as follows. OpTic are kind of away and gone. EG and LG, if they kind of win one more of their series, like FaZe and Cloud9 could go 2-3, but Sentinels could win a tiebreaker as long as there's not a crazy 2-3 tie, which as long as that's not the case, then Sentinels should win a tiebreaker against FaZe and Cloud9. They can do it. I think they're going to need TenZ back to do it, but their chances now seem to be rather hopeless, right, without even having their full roster with SicK in the team. Like all the good practice that ShahZaM said they were having the last week or so, that's going to go out the window now. And Raucus did a solid job for the roster, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to replace SicK, right? And if TenZ isn't at full capacity as well, I think the chances of this team making it are pretty much slim to none. They do play FaZe here on Saturday. That's, of course, their big game from their perspective, right? Cloud9 play LG, which is, of course, the other big one they've got to keep their eyes on. They want LG to beat Cloud9 in that series. And then in the final week, these are the two big games from the kind of Sentinels perspective. FaZe play Evil Geniuses, and Cloud9 play Sentinels, of course, on the Sunday. So these are kind of the key games for you guys to keep your eyes on this weekend. Just wanted to mention this real quick from Scott Robertson. He did some kind of stat piling together here over at .esports, looking at Nismo. The fact that he's the only top 5 player in ACS KD and cast percentage, which is kind of remarkable. Ye is also still the clear ACS and KD leader, kind of remarkable. And one of the nice little clips here from 100 Thieves to finish out the video. But very much enjoyed your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hitting the like button and tells you YouTube gods this is a good video, and as like you should see it as well. And I've got the competitive VALORANT community. Thank you always, as always, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.